Thanks for joining our last part, which is innovation in design and build. And this is almost a surprise category because it wasn't something I was anticipating looking at when I went over to America. And actually, as I went over, I was interested in looking at the tiny smart home movement, which is something that's become very popular in America as it becomes more expensive and more difficult to purchase land and obtain land and property there. People have got really keen on living simply and living this very condensed lifestyle and living tiny and living in tiny homes. And tiny homes are sweeping across the USA. And I was interested to go and have a look at the villages and the community centres in there. But when I came across the Tiny Smart House, which is an Oregon-based designer of tiny houses, I was really blown away by the attention to detail and the ability to create such an amazing structure and living space out of such a small environment. And out of such a tiny space, you could fit everything you needed in, and it looked very, very beautiful, and it was very sleek looking. And you had all of your, you weren't missing out on anything, even though you were basically living in a unit which could be transported on the back of a truck. So when we're looking for to adapt for the UK marketplace, I thought a top tip to put in here would be to have a look at tiny house building. And obviously we have to stick within the laws and legal requirements for house building in the UK and the minimum sizes for rooms and for the living amenities such as kitchens and bathrooms, and we have to obviously stick within those boundaries. However, if we look at, say, if we wanted to make a kitchen slightly smaller so we could put an extra living space in, we may be able to find a trick from a tiny smart home builder of how to fit in a really compact kitchen and not lose out on any of the facilities that you need within the kitchen space, and not isolate your marketplace by, say, not having a dishwasher or not having a washing machine. So looking at tiny smart houses is a really, really interesting way of looking if you can adapt any of their techniques and put them into your own property or into your own building design to make things more compact, more sleek, more efficient, and ultimately more profitable if you can fit more units within one space. So the second part of this module I want to talk about is Castle Braid. And again, this was a bit of a surprise for me because I'd not intended on looking at Castle Braid. I actually booked Castle Braid to go and stay in as my Airbnb. And when I turned up, I found out that I was staying in somewhere really, really different. And I'd stayed in a few random places across America, which was via Airbnb. And I'd stayed in, I'd rented a room in someone's house, and I'd stayed in an apartment which was shared with a load of other people, like HMO living. And when I got to New York, I was staying in Castle Braid, which was, I was renting a room from in an apartment there. And Castle Braid is a really, really special and unique place, and I'm really actually quite excited to bring some of the learnings from Castle Braid back, because I know it's not something that's going to have hit the UK and probably wouldn't have done otherwise, because it's quite a little known project even in New York. And Castle Braid is recently, I think, was voted by the New York Times as one of the top 5 most stunning residential buildings in New York, which should give you some idea of just how amazing this space is. And I know you can see by my pictures here, I don't think they do them justice. I think we have to take a trip and go on a practical, I think, and go and have a look. But Castle Braid is a creative artist living space, and it's basically bringing together people of a similar nature and housing them in a creative free space and letting them go away and giving them the tools to connect and form relationships and get to know each other. And ultimately they want people to work together and to eat together and to live together and to create together and to innovate together. And they're known known for, say, giving away free rent to artists that live in the building that will create. I know I heard somebody created the gates of Castle Braid, the big gates at the front of the building, and the artist who created those gates lived in the building. I think he had 6 months free rent for creating those gates. So it's a really kind of commune, like a modern commune type way of doing things. But the space is beautiful and it really does work. And as I've just mentioned, the building owners are really keen on giving tools so people can connect and they can network and they can get to know each other and they can build a real community sense within the building. And they have social media forums, they have databases within their own network and chat facilities, and there's lots of stuff that's going on within the buildings. They have media rooms, they have entrepreneur lab where you can go and work with your laptop with fellow freelancers. They have a dog park on the roof where everybody that lives in the building has a dog, and so you get talking to people while you're walking your dog. And they have all sorts. They have a games room, a screening room, cinema room, a gym. They have all sorts, and it's really, as I say, to encourage creativity and encourage a sense of belonging and a sense of respect for the building. And the residents care passionately about the building that they live in, and they're very protective of it, and they're very nurturing towards it. And I thought this was really important to learn from for when we're setting up projects of our own in the UK, of ways that we can create a similar community living type of feel within even small projects that we create within our own homeland. So I am excited to show Castle Braid because I'm hoping to, when we move forward further with social property investment and we look at opening flagship accommodation units, Castle Braid is the type of lead we'd like to take in terms of the community feel and the free spirit environment of letting people be aspirational and to discover their talents and to go out and be who they want to be and not have to be boxed in and follow a path that they may not particularly desire. So that's what we learned from the design and build element, and just a little bonus key aspect really of the America trip. Now, as we move forward for the next parts of the training, I'm going to be showing you how we put all of the pilot scheme learning and America techniques and practice, and how we're letting that impact on the social property investment model, and how now we're taking that forward, and how you can take that forward, and how you take some of these techniques and research, some of this research learning, and utilize it within your own housing projects. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.